Hello and welcome back to Jules Math Tools. In our session today, we are converting our fractions into word form. So yes, we will be changing our numbers into word form today. And if you are ready to see how we are going to do this, let's get started. So the first thing we have to look at when we are changing our fractions into word form is how do we convert our fractions into words. Now the first thing you need to remember is that whenever you're converting fractions into words, we use what we call ordinal numbers. Now ordinal numbers are mostly known as positional numbers, and these positional numbers are numbers that we use to place items or to place things or even people in some cases into ranks. So whenever you go to a race and you hear them using words such as first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and so on, these numbers are what we call ordinal numbers. These are numbers that we use to put things, items, and like I said, sometimes people in positions. So when we are converting our fractions into words, we use these ordinal numbers. Now you may be wondering, how are these ordinal numbers used? Now, now whenever you are given a fraction, the first thing you need to remember is that your numerator is always written as is. So whatever the number is in the numerator, you will write that number back just as it is. Now when it comes to the denominator is where the ordinal number is used. So the number in the denominator will be changed into your ordinal number. Now this is not the final step. So we don't just change the numerator into what is the number that it is and then the denominator into its ordinal form and we leave the fraction just like that. No, there is one last step that we have to do. We are now going to take both parts of those fractions and combine them together to get the word form for our fraction. So yes, we will use firstly the number that is written in our numerator is written first and then followed by our ordinal number. So those two parts will be combined together to get our fraction into word form. So let's practice some examples to see how this works. So we are going to begin practicing some fractions and converting them into word form. Now, one thing you have to remember is that whenever you are converting your fractions into word forms, we do not use over. So even teachers sometimes make the mistake and say 3 over 10. Even though that's a common practice, it is not the correct way to write our fractions into words. So remember that when you're writing your fractions into words, we're going to follow the steps that we did earlier. The first thing we need to do is our fraction or our numerator 3 will be written back as is. So we do not change that number. So we're going to write back our 3. And remember that with our denominator, we use the ordinal number, which is 10th. So once we change 3 into its actual number, and then we change 10 into that ordinal number, which is 10th, we then, in our final step, say that we have 3, putting back our numerator first, followed by my denominator of 10th. So our fraction in its correct form is 3/10. Let's try our next example. Why don't you convert this one into words first and then unpause the video to see if I got the exact same thing that you did. So to convert our fraction into words, we're going to write our numerator as is first, which is 14. And remember that when you are writing these words or changing these fractions into words, your spelling needs to be correct. Because nobody likes to read words that are spelled incorrectly, and there's no shortcut to changing your fraction into words. Now with 4, the good thing is 4 is actually written in two different ways. When you are changing your denominator with 4, into its ordinal form. Now we sometimes use fourth. Fourth can be used. That's not incorrect by any means, but there are occasions where you will mostly hear quarts when it comes to fractions or comes to four as it relates to fraction. And we know that quarts would probably be a word that you will hear a lot if you are taking like a culinary class or even in a science class. You may hear quarts more than you would actually hear four. So you can use fourth or quarts when you are changing a denominator with four into its ordinal form, and either one would be correct. So our fraction would then be 14, and you can say fourth, or if you like the sound of quarts more, by all means, say that it's 14. Remember, the numerator is always written first, and then you can say quarts. Okay, so we just converted two fractions into word form. And remember to get some additional practice in. And I'll see you right here in the next video on Jules Math Tools, where we make math easy.